Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. I'm so excited to be posting this video because guess what? Today, our 68 Charger comes back to the channel. I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this now for almost 6 months. I know a lot of you guys have too. I can't post a GTO video or any other video without I'm just getting bombarded in the comments of where's the Charger, where's the Charger? Well, the Charger is here. Most of our parts are here, at least enough that we can get started today and do, and make some progress on it. We're still waiting on a couple things, but I'll get to that in a second. So those of you guys that know this car, know just how far it's come in the last year or so that we've had it. In all fairness, we only worked on this car about 6 months, and basically from the doors forward is a brand new car. We've been using a lot of original Charger parts. Our friends at AMD have really helped out a ton and gotten us, rear quarters. They've gotten us fenders. They've got us pretty much everything for this car, and very, very thankful for that. But, this car originally started, it'd been sitting in a field since 1978. I picked it up, and I tell everybody all the time, I basically bought a roof with a title, because that's pretty much all that's going to be left original on this car, it seems. So, we did take a 68 GTX front clip. We welded it on this car. We've done the floor pan, we've done upper cowl, we've done a lot of stuff. We've had, different people on the channel that have also pitched in parts, which I'm extremely thankful for. And I'm going to tell you guys the story behind the hood, the tail panel, and a couple other parts that we've gotten as well. But, this car has really come a long ways. It's still got a long ways to go. And that's why we're here, because we're going to have to basically do the entire back half of this car. And when I say back half, I don't just mean back half of the frame rails. I mean the entire back half of the car is going to be completely redone. We've got to do both rear frame rails. We've got to do deck filler, both rear quarters. We've got window channels. We've got package tray stuff that we've got to do here in the corners. We've got a rear seat pan to do. We've got everything, tail panel, valance corners, you name it. If you don't see it here, or I guess actually if you do see it here, it's probably going to be replaced too. So it's going to be an exciting couple months. This car is going to come a long ways, but we're going to work on getting this metal work finally wrapped up on this car, and very, very happy to be making progress on it once again. So in today's video, we are going to dig in, and I'm going to separate this tail panel that a follower of the channel gave to me a couple months back. I get a lot of different messages from people, trying to throw me, cars and different things for sale. And a member of the channel is named Scott Bush. Thank you so much, Scott. But Scott had reached out to me saying, hey, you know what? I love what you're doing. You're helping out a lot of people. Nobody's really making videos like this of showing us start to finish how to install panels and parts of the cars, that I just really want to help you out. And I've got a bunch of parts. I'm like, okay, what does help me out mean? Like, how much do you want for these parts? And he said, I don't want any money. I just want to help be part of this build and be part of your project. So Scott chipped in. He gave me a hood. He gave me a tail panel here that's actually in excellent shape. You guys see some of the rust that's on here. All this is going to be cut off, but the tail panel itself is actually in perfect condition here, and a very, very nice piece. But yeah, so we're going to be separating this from the car today, or excuse me, from the panel today, and really trying to do a very careful job at getting this out, and then we're going to weld it onto our new Valence that we got from our friends at AMD. Might I say, it's a absolutely beautiful piece of metal, just like all the rest of their Charger sheet metal and GTO sheet metal has been. It's actually been a complete dream to work with, but very, very nice piece. So we're gonna have to clean this up, drill it out, separate it, because it's still attached, all around here. Basically, on our car, all this looks like it was just chopped off right across there. So we're gonna have to remove all of that very, very delicately so we don't do too much damage, and get that on there. So, oh, one last thing. My friends at Eastwood sent me something I'm really excited about. Now, they know I work on a lot of shit boxes, as most of you guys know, so we're dealing with a lot of rust, a lot of things that we have to descale and strip paint off of. And I've used one of these before. They're fantastic, but I'm very happy to now own my own Eastwood Contour SCT. Got a couple different drums. They also sent me a container of rust converter. I'm gonna need a whole lot more rust converter to make this thing actually work here, but Anyways, we'll put it to use, we'll try it out, and provide some feedback on that. But this will definitely be a big help because I can run that contour tool all along here, expose all these spot welds. I can see a few of them just where the paint, you can probably see them on that angle, but you can see where the paint is popped along here. But we'll run that tool right along here, expose all those, and be able to identify our spot welds a whole lot easier. So let's get ready and let's get to work. All right guys, so we got all of our paint stripped off here, at least where all the parts kind of come together. Now, this tail panel actually has kind of 4 or 5 parts all coming together. You've got your rear quarter where it mounts to the tail panel. You've got your lower valance. You've got your window channel here, or your trunk channel, excuse me, on both sides. So there's a lot going on here. But with that tool, I was able to brush away all of this paint that was on here. And now you can see the original spot welds. And let me tell you, there is a whole lot of them on here, okay? So this is gonna take some time. We're gonna have to drill every single one of these out very delicately, because again, we're trying to preserve that panel and use this on our car. So let's grab our drill and let's start drilling away. All right guys, so we got all of our holes drilled out, and overall it turned out really nice. It should be fairly easy to separate our tail panel from our rear valance here. Now what I did do is that I start out with a smaller drill bit when I'm drilling these, and I really just try to get in the center of those original spot welds, and then I'll actually grab a step-up bit just like this, and I will end up drilling them out. Now I always take them to the exact same size, you know, typically whether it's 3/8, 7/16, somewhere around there, enough that you know for sure that you got wide enough to break out. You know, what happens a lot of times is that you leave the corners of the spot welds on there. They like to hang up on there, so most people grab a screwdriver, they start prying and twisting, and you end up bending a bunch of metal here. We don't want to do that, okay? So use the step up. Sure, the holes are a little bit bigger, means a little bit more welding, whatever. Means a lot less bending and distortion of this panel in the end. Now, in terms of fitment overall, when you guys are taking apart, I mean, a car in general, but any panel like this, I mentioned this is several pieces that are all together. And so you got to think of how this entire panel is going to go back together. Now, a few things to recognize, okay? The tail panel and the valance are welded together, which then they sit on top of our rear quarter. And you can see how all this metal is stacked up here around. You can also see where it mounts onto, you know, where it's fit onto the rear quarter here is where these cutouts are, okay? There's a little cover that goes around here. It's a little L-shaped cover. those end up going through there, but you can also use those as really nice reference points to make sure that when we take it off this panel and we put it back on this car, we're looking for the exact same holes there, right? Now granted, it's gonna be a new recorder, but those holes are still there on the new quarters. But you use those to make sure that you can fit, you know, and you can center and make sure everything's fit back together. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna grab my air chisel, because you can't just simply pry these panels apart. They are actually sealed together, seam sealed, or some sort of adhesive. And you can see it, it's kind of squirted out, squeezed out from there. Down here, yeah, you can see that, okay? So all those are glued together, but with that air chisel should make it really easy. And the fact that we've oversized all of those holes should really not have any more metal hung up, unless I just totally forgot to drill out a spot weld, which could be the case, not necessarily on this side where that trunk gutter piece comes in because of all these holes, but on this side, I could only see 3 holes. 1, 2, 3 right there. So I'm sure we're gonna find some more stuff that's hung up there, but once we do, we'll drill that out, hammer dolly it, and make it straight again. So let's go ahead, let's grab our air chisel, and let's get this thing separated. All right guys, and with that, we are just about ready to stick our tail panel to our lower valance. Now, as you guys saw, it went around, we drilled out everything here, had to use the air chisel a little bit here and there, but I tell you what, for having, I think I counted 72 holes all the way around this panel, all the way around up here, and back up in here. For having 72 holes, this thing turned out fantastic. It could have been an absolute disaster. I am no pro whatsoever with the air chisel, but as long as you take your time, be careful, you can still get good results with it. You can also do a lot of damage with it too, but we avoided that in this case. So even here, like around our radiuses here on the top of the tail panel, this all turned out really, really nice. This side, really no repairs needed, with the exception of this little tab right here. We may have to actually just cut this out. It's pitted, it's a little bit rusted, and we may go ahead and replace that. Now, on our lower valance panel here, you know, when we go to fit this, there's really no magic here, guys. You can clearly see the, you know, the radius and that popping up and popping down on that side, just like you can see here on our tail panel on that side, exact same shape. So all we're going to do is that we're going to slide those two together, and then basically here on the inside of this, where this comes down, you just want to have that come smoothly down on this piece too. So that way it's a nice transition up the valance and then up our tail panel here. So we'll go ahead, we'll get that stuck together. Now, one other thing that I did notice too is that the tail panel has a very slight curvature to it, a little bit of a radius to it. Our lower valance is completely straight. So we're gonna have to start at the ends, we're gonna clamp them together, make sure that everything lines up really nice, and then we're gonna end up using our self-tapping screws. We'll start working our way across this, that way it pulls those two pieces of metal together. And with this already being in a weld-through primer, it's pretty much ready to weld once we get it into position. So let's grab our clamps, let's get some screws, and let's get this thing stuck together. Alrighty, you guys, and with that, we are wrapped up, at least for today, on our tail panel. Now, as it sits right now, all of our welds are dressed out here across the bottom. It all turned out really, really nice. Of course, we're gonna go back through, we're gonna blast this whole thing, put it all in epoxy and move it on to bodywork at a later date. But, all that I needed it for really today was to use for reference. And I'll show you here in just a second. But, next on the list here is gonna be quarter panels, which is gonna make this car look a whole lot more closer to finish than it actually is. But they are enormous pieces of metal, and you wanna make sure that they're fit right onto the car. So what this will allow me to do now is that I can stretch my tail panel from side to side using, again, our holes here for reference. We can check it for level, we can make sure it's even, everything like that. But it's really just to make sure that we can tie it all back together and make sure that our quarter panels are fit correctly. So let me grab some clamps real quick. I'll put this on the car and I'll show you guys how I'm gonna use it. All right, guys, so as you can see here, we have our tail panel fit on the back of the car. Now, again, using this just for reference, when I go to fit parts onto the car, this will obviously be the tail panel that eventually gets welded onto the car. But, when we start taking off our quarter panels here on both sides, I wanna make sure that as I screw things back together, fit check, make sure everything's good to go, make sure that we're level, okay, perfectly level across the top of that. Also, making sure that it's square back here. Now, not necessarily with AMD, I've heard great stuff about their parts, and that's what we're putting on this car is all AMD sheet metal. But I've heard horror stories about other makes and models of aftermarket sheet metal either being too short or too long, what have you. We can make sure, fit this, make sure it's gonna be nice and square all the way around. Here, as I mentioned, those dots, okay, put them firmly in the corners of those, all three of them once we fit in our new quarters. But again, it's always really nice with these cars, fit check, fit check, fit check. Screw the whole damn thing together if you need to, just make sure it's all gonna fit right, it's all square, it all goes back exactly where it should be. So with that, guys, I think I'm gonna wrap this video up. Next video, very, very big one. We're gonna do a full start to finish DIY install on brand new quarters on both sides. So if you haven't done so yet, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.